Playing Marcus, Eric, can't meme. How's your trades going?
Great, man. Trade's going great.
Trades going
We've
great.
got a we've
Okay.
we've got a big fish. We've got a big fish today, Sean.
Big fish. I think we got a whale on.
Oh, yeah.
We have a whale.
Yeah.
Eric got it before you did, Sean. I was talking about that big fish on the wall.
Oh.
It's like a Michael Saylor type thing.
Oh yeah.
What's the story there, Eric? Are you a fisherman?
No, not really. I actually caught that down at in Miami during Bitcoin 2022 this year, back in April.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, I brought my dad down with me, and he had a connection. I forget exactly how, through work, and this dude brought us out on his boat on like Tuesday or Wednesday morning, and within the first half hour or something, we both had one hooked, and a sailfish, big sailfish, and they focus on one at a time, so dad had to let his go, and we focused on reeling mine, and it was fun.
Awesome.
A good dad.
So
always,
it's a real one. So
What's that, Sean?
I said a good dad always making sacrifices.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was fun.
But
so you guys met? Did you guys also met at Bitcoin 2022 there in Miami?
Nope.
yeah.
Don't think I met anybody. Actually, that's not true. Miami 22, yeah. Okay, I'm getting them mixed up. I met Greg at 21, and then 22 I met a bunch of people at the beefsteak. I can't remember everybody, but yeah, that was fun.
Oh yeah. I didn't get the invite to the beefsteak,
I basically had to beg Josh for it, because I'm like, I reached out to him. I'm like, dude, I'm bringing my dad down. It'd be so fun to go to the beefsteak. And he's like, hell yeah, it's a family event. So here you go. Let's do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's how I gotta do. I gotta start bringing family members down. I did bring my brother to Miami 21, but he's a no coiner, and Greg was ripping on him the whole time. We probably, honestly, I probably met you in 21 and didn't even realize it. We probably didn't even realize it because I was Miami 21 and 22. I basically spent the whole time with Greg.
Yeah.
So
how could you not?
Yeah, and Sheriff Force when he wasn't working. Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Bitcoiners Guide. This is the show that we wish we would have had when we first started learning about Bitcoin. So we made it for you. Today is December 4th, 1:49 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The current price of Bitcoin is 17,000 and some change, up about 0.9% in the last 24 hours. Doing pretty good right now. Some people would say that we're pumping, the corn is pumping. It's always fun to watch Bitcoin drop like 70% and then go up 1%, and then everyone back, oh, the corn's pumping.
You got to get the Pump It Up song playing again. I miss those days.
I miss those days too. We'll get them back in like 2025, 2024, 2025. We'll get those back pretty soon. But right now, still in the bear market. Well, I guess until December 23rd.
Bear confirmed. Bear confirmed.
No, I'm just following the prophecy. Yellow's prophecy is December 23rd. And there's multiple reasons. And you guys have to figure out. I've figured out the reasons why. And
but you were saying 2024, 2025, Sean. It's bearish as hell.
Hey, you know what? I just want cheap corn for longer. I don't know about you. I just want
Stay humble, Marcus. Stay humble.
Oh yeah. I'll stay humble.
All right, man. Well, Eric, so thanks again for coming on. Before we get started in anything, we got to ask, this is the first question I asked you when I met you up in Pacific Bitcoin, was the name Eric Can't Meme. First of all, you do meme now. And so we got to ask, where does the name come from? And, why did you choose that?
There was little to no thought put into it. I hopped on Bitcoin Twitter in 2020, and one of the names that I came across was Nick Can't Mine, and it just kind of stuck. And I was trying to think of a name, for my hand, trying to think of a handle that might stick, and I couldn't think of anything. And meanwhile, I see all you guys memeing away like crazy, just having fun. having a blast, and I'm just laughing my ass off at all these memes. And I always struggled to like come up with like how are they doing this? So it just kind of fit together. Like, Eric, can't meme. Let's do it. Whatever. And I just so,
All
yeah.
right. Like, did you have a normie Twitter account before, or was it like your first Twitter account?
It's actually the same one. You can change your handle now. So yeah, same account I've had since 2009 or whatever. Yeah.
All right.
So what?
So you didn't have that issue of like old co-workers checking out your Twitter profile.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't know. If they're doing that and they're making a stink about it, then I don't really want to work there or be their friend anyway. So whatever.
I know. I tell people, I say, hey, like when people that I know follow me or have been following me, I'm like, you might have to mute me because I'm tweeting all the time about Bitcoin. So if you want to see it, great. If not, then you might have to mute me, and I don't really care. I'm gonna keep tweeting about Bitcoin all the time.
I'm fairly certain I've lost every single one of my normie followers from
Good. In like 10 years from now, they're gonna be like, why did I unfollow him? You know, like what was I doing? Like, yeah. So what made you start memeing then? Because you've been making memes lately, and they've been okay. They haven't been Marcus level of meme, you know, but they've been all right.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I think I watched Bitstein's talk from BitBlock Bloom from whatever year that was. I wasn't there, but
like 2018.
I saw it pop up. Yeah, 2018. And that you know, that was after I had been lurking around on Twitter for a while, seeing the memes, and I was just like, he boiled it down to so well, you know, how if you can take a big idea that takes hours, thousands of hours to understand and really, you know, grok, and you can boil it down to a picture that everybody recognizes and put a couple words on it that resonate, it's just like the most effective thing. And if you can add humor in there too, it's just, I mean, yeah, memes are awesome. So I'm trying to make some good ones every now and then, but it's just mainly just fun to play around with it and see what everybody else is doing and, you know, play off of each other. Yeah. Powerful. Memes are super powerful.
What's been some of one of your best memes, or one that, you know, we always say like our best memes get the least amount of likes and the shitty ones end up like blowing up. But yeah, what's a meme that you really liked or that you were surprised about, or that has a special story to
it? Let me think here. I haven't really thought about that.
I really like the meme that you did. It was the Grim Reaper knocking on Bitcoin, dead door, another dead door, another dead door, then the Bitcoin.
Yeah, that was my favorite one that I did.
And then the Grim Reaper had his head in his hands. That was a great meme that you did.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Eric can't meme original. Shout out to Rope.
There was one a year or two ago that got no likes or hardly any likes, but it was just, I mean, I laughed myself to death after I posted it because it was like a chain of the same template, and you know, everybody was putting their own captions on it, and it was that template where the drunk dude is screaming into that girl's ear at the bar, and she's just like,
oh yeah,
and it was back when Taproot was, you know, in the months leading up to Taproot releasing, and my caption was, "Are you signaling red square or green square?" But no, I can't remember. I think I posted one about Sailor, and you know, all the Sailor reply guys came in and retweeted it and liked the hell out of it. But I don't know. I kind of post it and check out how it does and then move on.
So Becca, you're saying?
Yeah. Becca and all the accounts, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
No, it's just fun. I just like, you know, the process of memeing and seeing what everybody else is doing. It's just fun. I just have a good time. Twitter's
because what was your backstory? Because I remember when like I got into Bitcoin through a friend of mine. He started talking to me about it, and then like my first place to go to was YouTube, and then through YouTube, I was like, wait a minute, these guys keep talking about Twitter. I gotta check out this Bitcoin Twitter thing. But was 2022 like, or 2020, was that the year when you created that account that you first found Bitcoin or first ignored Bitcoin, or what is it? What does that story look like? What is, if you're willing to share, of course.
Yeah, no worries. So I've been a Stansberry research subscriber since 2012.
Oh, dang.
You guys have probably heard of
that's the gold bug site, right?
Yeah.
Daniela or whatever.
Daniela Cambone.
Max
that
always goes on her show.
Yeah, that segment or that program or whatever is relatively new for Stansberry. I think within the last 4 years or something like that. Their main business model is newsletters, and they got a back when I became a Stansberry reader, there was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 editors that each wrote their own newsletter, monthly newsletter, and so I was reading those all the time and just trying to figure this stuff out. And since then, Stansberry's blown up. They're huge now, and they do all sorts of content. But anyway, so 2017, they released a shitcoin newsletter, and I didn't really know.
Is that what they title it, or do they title it like crypto?
Crypto capital or something like that? Yeah,
they were visionaries.
Yeah. This dude they brought in Tom Churchhouse. I don't know if anybody knows that name, but he
a Raoul Pal type.
Yeah, exactly. Totally a Raoul Pal type. And it was right in, I think they released the newsletter in like October or maybe September 2017. So like decent timing if you knew to get out in December, January, but right in that run up time period. So I was reading all this stuff, reading about all these shitcoins, and like thinking that they're going to solve all these real world problems, and so excited and making tons of money. Like I think I probably like 6 or 7x the small amount of money that I did put in. It just went crazy. And then and then obviously 2018 came around. I watched it all basically go to zero, and then I just kind of ignored it for the next 2 years. I didn't touch any of the stuff I bought. I just let it sit there. And then 2020 came around.
Were you talking to any of your family about it at that time? Were you
no, my dad is also, he's the one that got me into this stuff, just financial stuff in general. So he's also a Stansberry guy. And to be clear, I barely read any Stansberry stuff at all anymore. I just get all my information on Twitter now. But
yeah, for real.
But yeah, so he's a big Stansberry guy too. So I was just kind of chatting with him every once in a while about it. But he knew just as much as I did about crypto and Bitcoin and stuff, which was little to none. So yeah, I kind of ignored it for a couple of years and kept my eye on it maybe once every quarter, just like, what's it doing now? Oh, interesting. And then went on with my life. And then 2020 came around.
Just a question quick, right? Yeah. When you said you started reading Stansberry like in 2012, I guess they weren't writing about crypto back then. Was it like mostly stocks and bonds and that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Mostly real estate.
What's that?
Any real estate that they'd write? I mean, real estate would have been a great time to write about.
Yeah. No, their main client base was retail investors. So they made their money by coming up with a new stock pick every month. Pretty much every newsletter did that. So it was a little, I don't know. It was good information, but looking back and knowing all the stuff I know now about all the scammers and grifters and stuff out there, like it's a little scammy to be paying somebody to do that and to expect them to generate a new stock recommendation every single month.
Yeah.
For you. That's crazy. I mean, yeah. So
it's more about the content than the actual research, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it was, if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have subscribed again. But I'm glad that I did it because it led me here. It kind of gave me a base level knowledge. But yeah, and then so anyway, yeah, in 2020, I ran across, actually, I forget the order of events exactly, but I'm pretty sure Stansberry's podcast brought Raoul Pal on. And yeah.
Which
And
which,
I was,
which at the time, like during these times, he did have good information, right? Like it wasn't like Rob Powell, everything that Rob Powell has ever said has been wrong. Like
No, the cool thing is you could actually see him come in, and he was open about like not understanding it at first, and he was Bitcoin only at first, and at a certain point he kind of got it. And then he realized that he could make a shit ton of money off of shit coins and getting noobs into the shit coins. But anyway, yeah.
yeah,
And like you said, Eric, in the beginning, it doesn't really matter who or what you follow. I mean, there's so much to learn, like in the beginning, I remember I didn't know anything, like from watching graphs and, like all the different, yeah, what do you call it? Like when you're charting and stuff, you want to learn, basically, I want to learn everything, right? And then like from charting to all the macroeconomic speak to all the lingo that's being thrown around and understanding all that stuff. And then finally you start realizing a little bit like, wait a minute, this guy, sure, I learned a lot from him, but he seems to be having this alternate agenda, or he's probably getting paid by this other group on the right over here. So I mean, the longer you go, the more you start coloring that picture, I guess.
Yep. And Raul, he, like you said, he had good stuff, and in those, at least what I thought was good stuff at the time, and he kind of led me to Pomp and the Novogratzes of the world. Like I was just kind of interested in these guys. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, what do they know that I don't know? And but then Pomp, Pomp got me into freaking crypto.com and BlockFi and all that crap. But he did introduce me to Bitcoin, and he introduced me to Bitcoin Twitter and the whole idea of Bitcoin only. Once I hopped on Bitcoin Twitter, then yeah, it wasn't long before I ditched all that stuff from pre-Bitcoin Twitter and became a total psychopath maxi.
It seems like there's like 3 different types of people, right? If you get rug pulled, and like if you've had some type of rug pulling happen to you, there's 3 different types of people that it can make. Like, one, you get rug pulled and you go, I hate how that felt. Like, I saw what happened, and I'll do my best to make sure that never happens to anyone ever again. Then there's the second type of person who's like, oh, I got rug pulled. Well, then now I'm going to go out and start rug pulling people because I deserve to get my money back that I lost, and screw whoever else is out there. And then there's like a third type of person who, this is kind of like what I see, like the Rao Powells and the Pomps and the Novogratz of the world, is like, oh, there's idiots out there. There's noobs that are willing to put money in things that get rug pulled. How can I benefit? That's like the Kevin O'Leary's. How can I make money off of these people? And whether they got rug pulled or not, they just see that. And so, it seems like the majority of the Bitcoin maximalists, we actually have compassion on the new people that are coming in. But our way of being compassionate sometimes looks like toxicity, because we're telling them, you're listening to a scammer. This person is going to rug pull you. Like, don't listen to them. But it's the same thing. If you saw someone that was in a burning building, you wouldn't be like, oh, hey, that building is burning down right now. You might want to get out. You're going to be like, get out of the building. What are you doing? Get out of there right now. And so I think that's the whole Bitcoin maximalism, is we actually have compassion on these people who are coming in, because there's so many people who, like, if you ask people about Bitcoin, most people have no clue what even the halving is. And so if they don't know stuff that's that basic, or the difficulty adjustment, like, they're at a big possibility of getting rug pulled. And so it's, you don't want to see what happened to you happen to other people.
Right.
Of us, unless you're one of the scammer types, and then you want to figure out, how can I pull some scam, and that's what all these people are, like a lot of the OG people are doing. And that's what I look at a guy like Jameson Lopp. Like, he's adding Ethereum. Why is he doing that? Probably because he lost a bunch of money in the bear market somewhere, and now he feels like he deserves to get that money back.
Yeah, that was a tough one this week. I was a little floored by that, but I have to keep reminding myself that people that have been here for more than one cycle, this is common, common practice for them to see their heroes do this shit. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
this is
Slayer heroes.
yeah, exactly.
There's been quite a few of them.
This is like my first real bear market where I've had actual capital involved, like with not just play money. And so obviously I'm paying a lot more attention, and I've built up this group of people that I follow and trust, and read their stuff and respect their opinions and stuff. And I'm starting to see them drop like flies, like having to slay heroes. And now I get it. Like, I know what they mean now. And I thought it would be hard to do, but it's not. I mean, when the truth is on your side, like, and you're right, like you can slay whoever you need to, it's no problem.
Yeah. And
I will say, like, if GG or Odell ever turned on us, man, I don't know if I'd come back from that. That'd be too painful.
That'd be tough. There'd be some tough ones, but like even a Michael Saylor, I mean, I was prepared to hear the news that, oh, we had to force to sell some Bitcoin or whatever, and everybody would like fall over him. That would be like the bears would eat that stuff up, right? Oh, Michael Saylor is selling. Like you just got to be prepared for it, because who's to say that he's not going to, and he might be dumping on us at some point. Why not? I mean, that's the reality. Or Najib Bukele, who might end up, I don't know what he might do. I mean, but hey, I feel bad now because I totally took you out of your story. So we were back in 2020.
I think you guys got the gist. Once I hopped on Bitcoin,
you kind of ignored it. How come you ignored it in 2019? Because in 2019 it started pumping back up, right? It jumped back up from like 4,000 to 12,000.
Yeah,
Bitcoin at least. Yeah,
that's a good question. I guess I just didn't have enough touch points. Maybe the March kind of you got to work from home now thing that happened. Pretty common experience for a lot of now maxis is that March 2020 was like the learning opportunity to hunker down and just read and listen to stuff constantly since you're home all the time. I don't know. I think I made a couple tiny little $20, $30, $40 buys in 2019, but just like, nothing significant. I just was like, hey, little gambling money here, why not? But
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm mostly just proud that I kept it all, and I kept the shitcoins and sold those at the end of 2020, early 21 too. I was able to sell those like after, I bought them in fall of 2017 and sold them in January 21. So I treated that as a win.
Yeah, right. Some of them are probably up, honestly.
Yeah, right.
Up in dollar terms, but down in Bitcoin terms. That's the thing, and that's like what a lot of people you have to measure these things. How are they doing versus Bitcoin? And that's like what all these Ethereum people will say. Oh, Ethereum's gonna flip in Bitcoin, but it's like it hit its all-time high in Bitcoin like 5 years ago or something, and it hasn't even gotten close to that since.
Yeah. It has the best chance to. It's fully captured. So who knows what they can do with that thing?
Yeah.
With their media machine and propaganda and everything. They might be able to pull it off in the short term, but who cares? Yeah.
So you brought your dad down to you said to the Bitcoin conference, right?
Yep.
How does your family, what do they think about Bitcoin now? Have you been like the first one to really orange pill everyone, or the other people as well in your family? Like how does that look for you? Or are there a lot of people that just think, hey, Eric's doing his Bitcoin little thing that he's got going on, because every family is different when it comes to this?
Yeah. So my mom doesn't care at all. Like, she doesn't have any interest. My dad is, I would say, fully orange pilled. He's not like on Twitter and like participating in the discussion and like, joining a have fun staying poor train or anything like
that.
Is
that what makes you orange pilled now?
He gets it though. Like, I'm constant, like he's my venting. He's the guy that I vent to about all this stuff, like in real life, because I don't really have anybody else here where I'm at. And So yeah, he gets it. I send him enough articles and podcasts and talk about it enough to where there's no chance he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
But extended family and friends, I mean, everybody knows, you know, everybody knows that I'm the Bitcoin guy, and some of them have really latched on, and I've got them in self custody and DCA plans and all that stuff, and other people are just you guys know how it is. There's a mixed bag of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've orange pilled. I've thoroughly orange pilled probably, I don't know, maybe like less than 10 people, probably, like thoroughly.
Right. Well, has it changed you in any way? I mean, coming into Bitcoin, I mean, first you learn about, like stocks, like you said, and then you learn about Bitcoin, and like, Bitcoin sometimes, at least in my case, extended to like other areas as well, like, hey, wait a minute. So this is how our monetary system works. I was taught that it always worked a different way. I mean,
Right.
do you recognize yourself in that? Or are you still kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
can you
No.
speak to that?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to fill it in for you. Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah, has it changed me? I mean, yes, definitely, but also, I was perfectly primed for it ahead of time, because going all the way back. I mean, I remember growing up with video games, and my friends would hate playing with me because I would be the kid that wanted to, like, when you go into a new room in the game, I would check every nook and cranny for like the treasure chest that would get me more coins or points or whatever, because I thought it would, it might help me in the long run. Like at some point I'll be able to level up sooner if I just spend a little bit more time looking for stuff that was placed in the game. So it's kind of like a low time preference type of activity when you're a kid playing video games. So
Right.
so I kind of had that approach to life for ever. And on top of all the financial stuff that I read about with Stansberry, and then the head of Stansberry, Porter Stansberry, he's a big gold guy and a huge critic of central banks. So he talked about that stuff all the time, never really bringing up Bitcoin. So as soon as I heard about it in 2017, I was like, okay, it kind of subconsciously triggered something in my head, but I didn't really get it until 2020. I was like, okay, this is the thing that perfectly aligns with me and like my personality and my outlook on the world. And it just was like a puzzle piece that just kind of fit, that meme of the last puzzle piece to go into the head. It was literally like that when I kind of finally started to grok it. And then but yeah, it's definitely changed me too. Like it's pointed me down other rabbit holes, like the food rabbit hole, and exercise. I mean, I can't even think of all of them at this point, but I've got a
What pan
shelf full of yeah, pans. But I got
Skillets.
like a shelf full of ghee and beef tallow and liver in my freezer, and like all this crazy stuff that I've never experimented with before.
Yeah.
And it's just fun. Yeah, I'm optimistic on the future of the world for kind of the first time, really. I mean, long term wise, anyway, because for the longest time it was like, well, gold is the only answer, so have fun.
This is a big thing, I think, that a lot of people don't realize when, like, especially when I sit down and talk to them about what's going on in the world, is that I actually am extremely optimistic and positive on the future because we have Bitcoin. But what makes you optimistic and positive on the outlook of the world? Like, what is it with everything that we have going? There's a war going on in the middle of Europe, right? Like, what makes you, there's a lot of things, like CBDCs are coming down the pipeline. You got China having drones everywhere. Like, what is it that makes you positive, or what is it about Bitcoin that makes you positive about the future?
Bitcoiners, man. Bitcoiners make me optimistic as hell on the future of the world. I mean, every one of you guys that I meet or talk to or even see on Twitter, it's just, how could you not be hopeful for the world when you meet all these people like this? It's just amazing. So cool meeting Bitcoiners that are focused on improving their lives and by translation, improving the world. Fix the money, fix the world. It's just it's kind of surreal, you know, going to a BitBlock Boom or Pacific Bitcoin and seeing all these people. It's just, yeah, you don't really have the words for it. It's just like you show up and you're just happy the whole time and just having a blast. I mean, it's great. But I mean, Bitcoin specifically, the fact that it exists and knowing that the incentives will eventually drag everyone in, I guess would be what boils down to making me optimistic about the future. Is like you can choose the rulers world or you can choose the rules world, and in time everybody's going to choose the rules world. I mean, there's no contest there.
Yeah, it just makes so much sense, right? If you choose the rulers world, then you give the power to the rulers. But if you choose the rules world, then that gives the power back to the people. And
exactly, the incentives are totally opposite. And if you have the free choice to do so, you're going to choose the one where you give yourself the power. It's just human nature.
Yeah, it's like it's been an effectual struggle since almost the beginning of time, of people being ruled by overlords and then trying to have a revolution to get the power back to themselves. And you know, the overlords overstep their boundaries too far, where it pushes people so they're like, this is unacceptable. And it just seems that Bitcoiners are just getting dotted all over the world because they're starting to realize these rights and these freedoms and the power that they're giving up for no reason. And whether it's that it's Bitcoin that shows it to them or something else that shows it to them, and then that leads them to Bitcoin, they're still figuring out that Bitcoin is that tool that will give them the power back in their hands.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned how it kind of cycles, right? You know, the overlords take back the power and then they lose it and then they take it back, and just constant cycles. Well, so now we have this thing that has enshrined property rights for the individual better than any other thing has ever. So what does that mean for cycles? You know, like do we? I think Svetsky talks about this a lot. You know, like all of your models are broken, right? The cycles are cycles.
This time is different.
Exactly. It might actually be different this time. Yeah.
Yeah. It really might be.
Another reason to be optimistic.
Yeah. Okay. So going on to a different, or I don't know if Marcus wanted to talk about that still, but you know what? I don't care, Marcus. So I'm going to keep going. I'm just playing. Another topic that I was thinking about was like when I got into Bitcoin, there were certain narratives that may have been true or may have been false. And a lot of them that got me into Bitcoin probably weren't true. And then I kind of believed on, and then I've like little by little, they've kind of just scaled away and gone away from me. And then I've latched onto the truer stuff, you know, the whole thing of come for the gains, stay for the peaceful revolution. Yeah. Whatever it is. What are some of the narratives that when you thought that you were orange pilled in 2020 that you believe that have changed, you know, whether that's a plan B model or whatever it may be? Like, what are some of the things that you can think back? Because, you know, when I think back to those times, right, we were in 2020, it was like, oh, it's for sure 100K by the end of 2021. And, you know, there's a lot of these different narratives about Bitcoin that didn't happen that even myself, I was saying, and those didn't happen, but they didn't make me lose confidence that Bitcoin is still that tool to provide freedom. So, or didn't make me lose confidence that Bitcoin is the thing, you know? So like, are there certain narratives that have changed since then when you got in?
That's a good one. I've not put in a whole lot of thought on that one. The first one that comes to mind that I've actually mulled over in the past is the price pump into 6 digits by the end of 21. Like I thought it was going to, you know, 200K by conference day seemed bearish to me, you know.
600K, baby. Yeah.
I thought I was going to 1 million. I'm gonna do something crazy.
Everybody kept asking me, do you really think it could hit 100,000 by the end of the year? And I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had to, I had to
Yeah.
check myself there after that, and I'm sure it won't help me stay humble the next bull run, but hopefully having that experience will at least contribute a little bit to the humility. But man, I'd have to think on that one. That's a good one. My memory is terrible, so I'd have to dig up the archives there. But yeah, definitely the price. The humility part has come on a lot stronger this year than last year.
Oh yeah. Well, I think it's just important to be honest with ourselves, right? Because like you don't want to. This is what I keep thinking about: is I don't want to orange pill someone on some false premise, and I don't want to orange pill myself on some false premise, because what happens when those things don't come to fruition? Well, then it's like then you're believing a lie, and that doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin's a lie, but you believed a lie, or may have believed a lie to get into Bitcoin. And some say, hey, that's fine because you got into Bitcoin, and that's okay. But eventually you do have to like take a full account of what is really truth in this and what's not true about Bitcoin. Because even as Bitcoiners, sometimes we push these narratives about Bitcoin that may or may not be true, that we kind of all just take for granted, and we go, oh yeah, that's true, and this is true. And so how do you get down to like real signal of what's actually truth and what's just like tradition, Bitcoin tradition?
You triggered a couple things in my memory there. So one of them that I remember now was the massive wave of corporate adoption that was coming after MicroStrategy and Tesla. Like,
yeah,
every company is going to be doing this. It's like, why would you not? And after Tesla, like nobody. Another one that came to mind was just believing or thinking that there wasn't hardly any thinking that the risk of keeping your coins on an exchange is equivalent to keeping your money in a traditional bank. Like those risk models there's no difference, because laws are set up and everything will be fine in the end. You can always get your money back. Like, I remember thinking that early on in my journey, and yeah, I'm glad that I came to my senses before this year.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of narratives, right? Especially with like the BlockFis and the FTXs of the world saying, hey, Mt. Gox was back in 2013, we're regulated companies in the United States. There's no risk of that happening to us. And so I think those type of things, people just kind of start to believe them a little bit. But then you have to really focus down on, okay, well, what is the truth and what's not the truth? And why is someone trying to make me give up control of my keys to my Bitcoin? Basically I've just gotten to the point, stack sats, don't give up your keys to anyone for any reason under any circumstance, and then you'll be okay. That the moment you give up your control of your keys, you might just consider that Bitcoin gone, because you don't have control over that money anymore.
Yeah, and well said. Why you would ever, after you send Bitcoin to your own keys for the first time, it's like, man, why would I ever do anything else other than this? Like, this is the best feeling ever. Because I mean, maybe it's just me, my personality of wanting to be in control of my life, but some people don't like that. They don't want that responsibility. But man, when I sent coin to cold storage for the first time, it was like, okay, this is it. Let's keep doing this.
Yeah.
Was it easy for you to do?
After a few BTC sessions videos, yeah.
Hmm.
And the puppy sale Matt Odell cold card video.
Ask the question, Marcus. Ask the question.
What do you mean? What question? Oh, do you have a technical background? It always seems, we've been doing all these conversations, and it turns out that all these persons that we thought were like regarded memesters turn out to be pretty smart, and they all turn out to be, you know, like either, I don't want to say economists or a data analysts or engineers or that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm an engineer by training.
there we go. Yeah.
Another
But hey,
engineer.
Sean is the exception here.
Yeah,
I'm the basketball guy though.
Yeah, I'm the only basketball player over here talking to all these engineers for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah.
Get it, but I did tell Marcus.
But do you think there's something to it, Eric, why engineers would be like the first to get it? To me, it seems really obvious, right? Because it's like playing a game, right? If you know the rules of a game, whether it's just a board game or whatever, you have to know the rules of the game to be able to win and to know how to play the game, right? And once you know what the rules of the games are, you feel comfortable playing that game. The minute you don't fully understand like what a halving is or how blocks are produced or how this block subsidy is, you know, like, I don't know. That's my take on it. To me, it was very important. It took me a while to really get it, but once I got it, it was like clear as day. And then, you know, all this FUD that's being spread, you know when it's FUD and when it's not FUD, right? But
yeah, I heard you guys talk about this with a few of your guests and made me think about it a little bit. And the kind of boiled down version that I came to was engineers are trained to detect and call out and remedy bullshit as a profession, you know. So their job is to dig in the weeds, figure out what's wrong, and make it right. So I mean,
to make things
what
work.
else are Bitcoiners doing?
Well, and
yeah, they make it work.
And they make things work in the real world. I think that's the biggest difference I see between Bitcoiners and people that are in Ethereum. They want to create some
architects,
like that doesn't even exist.
I see it like architects versus engineers, right? Like an architect can create like this beautiful sketch of like this utopian city with like these round buildings that have this very small footprint on the land. But then an engineer will look at it and be like, well, that's a nice drawing you did there, buddy. But, you know, like one gust of wind and this thing is going to be like, it's just going to fall over. And to me, that's like the Ethereans are painting like this architect, you know, rainbow world of ponies and flying ponies that, you know, like that poop out like strawberry cones that are delicious. And then, you know, like real, whether it's an architect, whether it's an engineer, or even somebody who studies like biology, you know, like you're rooted in reality. Some things are, you know, you can dream up stuff, but if you actually want to, you know, in the real world, we have to deal with physics, you know. And
yeah, I like that. That's a good analogy. Not to say that there's not good architects out there, but
yeah. Well, and to be clear, Ethereum's not even like Bitcoin's. It's not even competition to Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going after the central banks, you know, for everyone listening. And Bitcoin is not competing with crypto. Bitcoin is competing with central banks and the fiat that the same fiat fake paintings that are being created of, you know, we can print as much money as we want with no recourse, with no consequences to the world. And we're seeing right now that there are tons of consequences, whether it's inflation, whether it's, you know, the bad food that we eat, whether it's poverty in these countries that we have caused, that we've given, you know, unsustainable loans to through the IMF, you know, all of these issues that fiat brings about, where you can literally gain power by being closer to the central bank, and you can keep people in poverty if you maintain your power and your status, and the central bank helps you to do that. Where in Bitcoin, if you want value, if you want money, you have to actually provide a good or service to someone that they want, and the money can't be siphoned or printed, and no one can be stolen from through the secret tax of inflation. So, you know, I think that's like the bigger central banks are the bigger issue more than any stupid crypto coin.
Yeah, Bitcoin's trying to get rid of them, and Ethereum is trying to recreate it. It's like they couldn't be more opposite.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, with all that being said, I mean, this is a really good conversation, but we got to get into some of our questions, these 3 questions that we love asking. and you may have heard them already, and maybe you're prepared. So we've changed them for you. No, I'm just joking. We haven't changed them. So number one, what did you read or listen to that made you finally swallow the orange pill, that made it click for you?
Yeah. I was trying to think of one thing where it just kind of clicked. I'd say the closest thing, there's a few of them. I mean, I read The Bullish Case for Bitcoin early on. That was big.
VJ book.
Yeah, by VJ. I read The Number Zero in Bitcoin by Breedlove very early on, and most of it didn't make sense to me at all. But like I knew that there was, at that point, I knew that there was something there. Like, okay, I need to start reading more here, because this dude is talking about stuff that I can't even wrap my head around. So something going on here. And Bitcoin Standard, obviously. Honestly, I think joining Bitcoin Twitter was huge for me, just to see all of the activity going around about people that want to fix the money. It's like, wow, this is like not just me here. Like, this is a thing. And so Bitcoin Twitter was huge. I'm giving a huge paragraph answer here, but and then I think getting my node up and running and pulling up the mempool on my node was like, oh, so this is Bitcoin. Cool. All right, I see how this can scale. That's pretty dope. And then kind of the cherry on the top was,
what do you mean? The fact that there is a mempool, or that transactions are being held in a mempool? Is that what that makes it scale for you, or
the sense that I can see the state of the entire Bitcoin blockchain with my own hardware in my own house, without relying on anyone else to serve that information to me. And I can verify my transactions, that they're actually real Bitcoin in the wallets that I have. Yeah. And now I'm not trusting anyone now. It's all, I'm a first-class Bitcoin citizen now, because I hold my own keys, I run my own node, I verify my transactions, and no one can stop me from doing that. Yeah. That was a click.
Well said, okay. Well said. And it does give you a feeling of power, right? I had that exact same feeling, and I kind of felt like a little bit better than the rest doing that for some reason, because I was sure that a lot of people are still not doing that, even up to this day. It's like people will say they own Bitcoin, or they hold Ethereum, or all this other stuff, but so few people actually run their own node and like verify that, like get UTX set out for
yeah. It's not a strict requirement to own Bitcoin, but I would highly recommend it. It gives you a sense of security and just comfort that not only is, you can hop on any mempool website. I like mempool.space, obviously. You can hop on there and verify transactions with whatever data you're being served.
They provide. Right.
But to do it on your own hardware that you can see in your living room, do the same thing and get the same, reach the same conclusion with your own hardware. that was a big moment. You can hear about it. You can hear people talk about it all day long, but it's kind of like sending key or coin to your own keys. It's like, you hear about it all day long until it's like, whoa, okay, yeah, this is legit.
Yeah, well said.
And then I was just that cherry on the top, last thing I was gonna say was when Jack was on whatever mainstream channel he was on, and he had
Jack Mahler's.
Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, he was on some program, and he had the block clock in the background. He had that whole
Moscow time.
Moscow time. And when NVK pushed that update to put Moscow time on the block clock, and now Moscow time is in our living rooms all around the world, in all of our Bitcoiners living rooms, that was that was so amazing. That whole world, and it's just beautiful.
When that I don't know what he was, a journalist or something, when he was dead set on it being Moscow time, I
Doubling
hadn't
down,
laughed.
yeah.
I hadn't laughed that much in a long time. Just like his absolute stupidity, but it was just so
Yeah.
funny how he kept it was like this is like the perfect example of what fiat life is. A guy who everyone knows that he's wrong. He has no idea if he's right, but he's just gonna fake it until he makes it and hope that people back down because he's like some blue check guy, you know?
Yep. Every outside signal he's getting from every person and everything that he interacts with is telling him one thing, but he can believe the opposite because fiat. I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
That's why it's just such a perfect meme.
Yeah.
This is also probably the answer to that final question you're going to ask, John.
I forget the final one, but yeah, all right.
Okay, well, let's get the question.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, let's get the question to question number 2. So how do you see hyper Bitcoinization playing out?
Yeah. I heard Singapore say gradually then suddenly. I think that's a good one. That's a good 3-word answer to that. But I guess to put a little more color on it, I would say through copious amounts of pain, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because if people aren't on board to Bitcoin by this point, they're likely not curious enough to just start learning about it and hopping on that boat. You know, it's I forget who kind of coined this or if somebody coined it at all, but it's like curiosity or pain will get you in. And it seems like curiosity is, I don't know, maybe we haven't peaked out at the curiosity centered Bitcoiners that got in because they were curious, but it feels like we may have. And pain, I think, is gonna bring the rest in. You know, just look at the FTX thing recently. It's like how many maxis were born in the last 2 months just because they just got wrecked. And
I'd like to add to that. There's 2 types of pain, huh? The pain you're describing, but also the pain of missing out.
Yeah. I'm not excluding one or the other for sure.
Pomo. Okay, Marcus. Pomo.
Yeah. No, I think FTX is the, that'll be like, looking back in 50 years, I think FTX will be like, that'll be like an appetizer to like the main course that's coming, because the whole damn system is an FTX. Like somebody, I forget who said that, but everything is FTX.
Yes.
Everybody's getting wrecked somehow at some point if they're not holding their own keys with Bitcoin. I mean, it's just a matter of time.
Did
you see? Oh, go ahead, Sean. Yeah, good.
Okay. Well, I was just saying it's just interesting because a lot of Americans, we don't experience the pain yet, right? And so when it comes to a financial system, we don't necessarily, like, unless you go down the rabbit hole of what is the Fed, like the creature from Jekyll Island, you really study about what the Fed does and how it perpetuates its corruption through inflation across the whole world. You don't realize how bad the Fed is, because in your day-to-day living, you might, at worst, it's 10% inflation year over year, but if you go to someone who donated to the trucker convoy in Canada and then got their bank account shut down, then they might have that pain of, oh, I really might need something like a Bitcoin. Or if you go to someone in Argentina who's experiencing 55 to 60% inflation year over year, and every week that they go to the store, their prices go up significantly. And, every time they get paid, they rush to go spend all of their money that you cannot save. And when you can't save, then you literally have ownership of nothing because you can't save up enough money to own things of value. Then those people, I had an Argentinian teammate this last year, orange pilled him in under a month. It was so easy for him to understand Bitcoin and also Bitcoin and no altcoins, because he realized that those were just a recreation of the system. So I totally think you're right. Like pain, unfortunately, people people will have to get wrecked to realize that they need a solution, because right now they don't, like, it's hard to understand Bitcoin if you don't understand the problem.
Right. Yeah, that's what's making the orange pilling process so difficult. Like for me personally, it's just nobody I talk to has experienced enough pain to believe me. I mean, they either got to be super curious, which is kind of what I typically am, what a lot of us, here in the first 2 decades of Bitcoin's adoption cycle, or
engineers.
Serious engineering types, yeah.
And basketball players randomly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although math was by far my best subject.
Math was?
Yeah. Yeah. I told Marcus that I did take AP calculus and AP statistics in high school and passed them. So maybe that's why. Maybe it's because I've always been the math guy.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I think 90% of the adoption will be based on pain.
Yeah, the thing is, like if you watched Max Kaiser, for instance, he was on Tucker Carlson this past week. I don't know if you guys got to listen to him, but he really just like, no holds barred, he just went right in there and he was like, the entire American system is one big racket, and he really digs in. I know like a lot of people will really be like, come on, this guy is obviously delusional, and he's like this doomsdayer. But
yeah,
even to this day, sometimes I have this little devil and this little angel on the other shoulder, but it's so hard not to see it anymore. And you come across as like a conspiracy theorist to normal people who are like, come on, that's not how the way the world works. But yeah, it is all one big corrupt racket if you look at it. So I agree with you there, Eric. Like in the end, that house of cards needs to come down, and it's going to be painful for a lot of people that are going to get wrecked in the process. It's gonna have to happen. It's either Bitcoin fails and it never happens, or Bitcoin wins and that house of cards needs to come down.
There's just the idea of Bitcoin there's too many people out there that grasp it. And the idea is just an idea is so hard to break. Okay, so
it's that big. Yeah.
So with that being said, now let's be rational, right? We're okay. Let's take off the tinfoil hat. Let's be rational. Let's be, hey, you got to play the probabilities. Nothing's ever 100%. We believe that Bitcoin, is going to do what we think, right? Like that it will compete with the central banks and overtake central banking, which is a good thing. But what if it doesn't? And if it doesn't, what do you see as the biggest threat to Bitcoin?
I think Labrahodl never coming back onto Twitter is probably the biggest threat.
I agree. Come back, Labra, if you're listening.
Yep, come back. Come back home.
Be a good boy.
Come back inside, yeah.
So one of the things that I learned in my first role out of college, I worked at an oil refinery, and they deal a lot with risk on the technical engineering side when they're building new stuff or fixing stuff or whatever. And they define it as risk is probability multiplied by severity. So, if that makes it so that you factor both in equally, right? So if probability of something happening is 0, but the severity is really, really high, the risk is 0, right? And vice versa. If the probability of something happening is 100%, but the severity is 0, then there's no risk. So I kind of have brought that along with me when we start talking about this topic. And my conclusion is that, like, man, I got to stay humble here, but I can't think of a scenario where the risk, the probability times severity, is super high, because one major theoretical risk to Bitcoin, obviously Singapore said it was, if if the existing system all of a sudden just decides to get its act together and start being responsible and renders the need for Bitcoin, it gets rid of the need for Bitcoin. Like there is no use case for it anymore because central banks are being responsible. So the severity of that is really, really high, but the probability is basically zero, right?
It's like it's mathematically almost basically impossible right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then on the flip side, I would say that the situation that has the highest probability of happening is just more and more paper Bitcoin over and over and over again, just like we saw the last couple of months. But the severity of that isn't that high because as long as you can teleport your Bitcoin across the world in seconds and audit the supply, then eventually that stuff will all wash out. I mean, how could it not? So the severity is low, which makes the risk low. So I mean, somebody smarter than me should answer this question, and maybe somebody like, I don't know, whatever, Sailor might have a good answer to this, but
yeah, we'll bring Sailor on next week to ask him.
Yeah.
I thought, like this is the answer I was referring to when you said earlier that God, no, I lost it, but it was something like we're running out of curious people to want to adopt this thing.
Yeah.
So I guess that's more the Giggles answer.
Yeah.
Where he says, it's only 20% of us that will ever get it or be, sovereign, individualistic enough to want to hold our keys, and the rest will always just want to go to an exchange or go to a bank and just find a safe place to store their Bitcoin. They don't want to go into running an own node, holding their own 12 words. So as long as like 80% of the population will do that, then we're gonna be back in the world that we were already. Even though Bitcoin might be that thing, it's going to be able to be suppressed because people are going to be able to run paper Bitcoin on it.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, cut you off.
No. That's it. Please continue.
Yeah. So I think that's right. I mean, I think most people have no interest in Bitcoin at all, let alone running their own node and holding their own keys. But so I'd say that the probability of that happening is super high because it's basically happening right now, but the severity is low because it can't persist like that because they're gonna run into pain, right? So the severity or the risk of Bitcoin adoption just stopping because we ran out of curious people is super low because curious people will eventually or non-curious people will eventually turn into people that got hurt and become pretty damn curious, so it's like,
right,
in the long run the incentives will just work out. I just can't see how they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, but we usually come down to these kind of arguments, and it's funny because back in 2017, 2018, and I remember this vividly from 2019, by the way, as we came out of that bear market, all of a sudden there were like this, I would say a swath or a swarm of people, sorry for my English there, were just a bunch of people, and all of a sudden all these old talking points started resurfacing again. Oh, but what about quantum computing? It's like, oh God, not the quantum computing thing again. Or what about if governments are gonna ban it? Like you just go through literally, like you mentioned, whether it's cycles or I see it like a pendulum swinging back and forth, yeah, but ultimately those are pretty easy to answer. And like, what are we left with? Looking at threats for Bitcoin.
Yeah,
it's more of a social attack I can come up with.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody out there with like more original attack vectors for Bitcoin, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah,
it's interesting because we've had quite a few engineers on and still yet to find an engineer who's heavily studied Bitcoin who goes, oh, this is where it breaks, this is where it doesn't scale, this is where, like, who have really studied it. And so that's not to say that maybe we're overlooking something. It's just like we're trying to find where Bitcoin breaks down, and we'd love to see it, you know, like we'd love to see where Bitcoin breaks down. And if we do find it, then maybe there's a fix for it. And if there's not, then, you know, then we still have the idea of Bitcoin, and the idea of Bitcoin will continue to live. Whether, you know, and so I think that's what a lot of people just find hard to believe, is that like that Bitcoin is more than just a tool of freedom. It's an idea of freedom as well. And it, like, its time has come. It's, you know, there's so many things, there's so many authoritarians that want centralized control, and Bitcoin gives a decentralized control back to the people. And it's hard to break that. Once you see it, it's very hard to, like, you can't unsee the idea of Bitcoin.
Yep. Yeah. And, you know, if I knew, I wouldn't be spending 90% of my free time with Bitcoin podcasts in my ear, or articles or books just in my face all the time, doing stuff like this, and then orange pilling my family members and friends who I love dearly, if I knew of a significant risk.
Yeah.
Right.
Bitcoin, you know, I would never shill a stock to my mom, or like my grandma, or like my friend. Like, I would never do that, because anything can happen with a company or a board of directors, whatever, who knows. Like, but I feel completely comfortable shilling Bitcoin to whoever wants to listen. Like, that's a rare thing.
What are you looking for? Maybe just one final question. Is there anything in particular you're looking out for, looking at 2023, whether it's Bitcoin adoption, or, you know, we don't like to talk a lot about price, but it could be price, could be adoption, could be hash rate, could be mining, could be, you know, you mentioned corporates getting into Bitcoin, or what are kind of like the markers that, you know, you'd expect to hit,
Yeah.
from a Bitcoin perspective next year?
You know, I don't know. I almost don't care, you know, like, what I get most excited about is having conversations like this, and then also successfully getting people on board that weren't previously on board. Like, that I get, like, you know, that's a great
It's a rush.
So,
Right.
rush. It's totally a rush. Yeah. And it sounds geeky or lame or nerdy or whatever to say that, but it really is for me. Like, it's just so fun hanging out with Bitcoiners and orange pilling people. So, like,
Yeah.
you know, as long as nothing fundamental about the thesis changes, I'm just along for the ride, man. I'm not making any predictions about anything. I'll just get burnt. And
I know.
True that.
Yeah, I'm excited. How about this? I'm excited for BitBlock Boom and Pacific Bitcoin next year.
Oh, and don't forget, in 2024, the halving party.
Here it comes. Here it comes.
The halving party.
That was a nice layup there. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hey,
Yeah,
you toss the lob, you know I'm gonna finish it. It's just that simple.
yeah.
So, okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thanks, Eric. Marcus, I don't know if you have any final thoughts right now.
No, I'm not very good on the final thoughts, but yeah, Eric, thanks so much, and for confirming our thesis again. You know, and likewise, man, it's always a lot of fun talking to Bitcoiners and meeting guys like you. I hope we get to hang out someday, man.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah. That sounds like a plan. I appreciate you guys inviting me on and kind of welcoming me into the Twitter sphere, and giving me some feedback on the memes and everything. So yeah, you know, a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, if you ever have any trouble making a meme too, just hit us up and we can help you out. So
Cool.
Thanks again, man. It's been a lot of fun. As for everyone else listening in, remember we have the Meme Factory podcast on the same channel. We go live Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Don't miss out. And remember, what you see here, what you hear here, when you leave here, don't just let it stay here. Please share, like, subscribe. If you liked what we talked about, let us know. If you hated it, let us know. We want to know. As for Bitcoiner's Guide, episode 42, from Eric, Camp Meme, Clan Marcus, and Big Sean, we're over and out. Peace.